Well, how do you explain one like that today, James?
They just beat us. I mean, they played good. They got, they had a guy on their team, Smith stepped up and had a great day. Had 3 home runs, drove in 7 runs, I think, 6 or 7, and we couldn't overcome it. Just, we had a couple of chances to maybe to break the game open, or maybe even, extend a lead, and we didn't get that big hit. We did hit a lot of balls hard. You think about a couple of the balls that Goodhart hit and Fletcher hit, and it's just sometimes that's the way the game works. I mean, we didn't play real good, obviously. We struck out too much, but we knew what we were up against as far as pitching. We were going to be very, very inexperienced today. Kind of just the situation we're in. We had to go with the older guys yesterday, let them get a little bit of work, and then today was going to be about some sophomores and some freshmen, and that's basically what you saw all day. Cronin had a chance to come in there and just we wanted to get him a little bit of work today, and we felt like that was the time to just go ahead and bring him in. If we would have tied the game, we were going to go ahead and bring him in and let him work the ninth. And then if it was tied in the 10th, we weren't going to put him back out there. He wasn't very sharp. Velocity wasn't real good. He had plenty of time to get loose. So give him credit. They made a couple of good swings, and they scored a lot of their runs with 2 outs. And got some big 2-out hits.
There was one time when Smith came up there, I think the count went to 3-0. Was any thought of just intentionally passing?
Well, at the time, the runner was still at first base. And then I forget what happened. He swung 3-0 and fouled a pitch back. And I don't remember exactly. Other than we had the balk. And then that's what moved the runner from, I guess, say at second and third at the time, maybe. No, first and third. And
welcome in. It's our Thursday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, coming to you live each day here on KDSJ, Monday through Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And we open up today's show with audio from last night's home loss. Coach Dave Van Horn talked about their 10-7 loss to Northwestern Louisiana State. Just one of those games. He talked about it using the young guys, not really putting a lot of stock into last night's ball game. Just basically, a lot of people, Demetrius, Coach Van Horn likes to do this periodically throughout the season, and in particular with those midweek games, while getting some of those younger position players and pitchers some game experience, because it's always proved to be very beneficial down the road, and you never know which guys you may have to count on in this very, very crucial and big SEC home series that they have coming up with Tennessee Volunteers. Former Arkansas assistant Tony Vitello, head baseball coach at Tennessee. So that's going to make for a very, very good series. But I want to bring in my co-host, my producer, Demigod, but you know him on this show as what? My home guy. What's up, my man?
What's good, boss man?
$1. Now, how many dollars, I don't know, but it's $1. You feel me?
Always. I'm always in the money making business.
Arkansas yesterday named an assistant basketball coach. Corey Williams comes from Stetson, having coached Stetson from 2013 to just this past March, was released. Going to be a major piece, but also too, it was announced that Scotty Thurman, former Arkansas assistant, former Arkansas legend, will not be retained as an assistant on the bench coaching, but had some other positions, chose not to accept those positions. But I want to say, congratulations to Scotty. Thank you for all the services that you've done. I mean, he's going to end up on his feet at a good job. This guy can coach the game of basketball, is a great recruiter, and I'm just looking forward to seeing him and his growth through so much adversity. But my congratulations and Godspeed to you as well, Scotty Thurman, and thanks for all services that you've done here at the University of Arkansas. But Demetrius, we have Scotty Borderland coming up at 1:15, and we're going to talk to Scotty a little bit about basketball, a little bit about football. But what I want to talk to you about is football. I was sitting at the house last night and just hypothetically thinking, what if KJ Jefferson were to come in here and really, really, really play up to a standard that maybe the coaching staff wouldn't expect it, and he turns out to be the best quarterback. I'm playing devil's advocate because I don't do that very much. If KJ comes in here, you have Starkle and you have Hicks, but throughout fall camp, KJ Jefferson, even with him being a true freshman, comes in and can grasp this offense. What do you do if you're Coach Mo? Now, you have these two grad transfers, but you have this freshman, so just a little devil's advocate. What would you do?
You know, that's interesting because I honestly truly forgot about KJ really not being on campus right now. I literally have, and I was only really thinking about Ben Hicks and Starkle for a little while. That KJ kind of creeped out the back of my mind, but that's interesting. You know, I think he really is going to be the one that brings that full 100% package athleticism, that type of quarterback that is more congruent to Kelly Bryant, the prototypical quarterback that Morrison is really looking for. And I think that's actually a possibility once the season kind of gets going. I think later on in the part, you're going to see KJ kind of really push. And I think, Connor and Nolan really dedicating a lot of his offseason to baseball is really what's going to let KJ really creep into the back door and kind of fight for that 2 or 3 spot, and then eventually, because we know it's one play away in the SEC, so we're not even guaranteed that the quarterback that we start at the beginning of the year is going to make it through the entire year. And just with the type of physicality that's in this season, and in this league, I think you're really going to see a lot of that. And I think it would be beneficial for KJ to use those 4 games. You know, they still have the red shirt rule where, if you play 4 games, you're still considered a freshman. So I think Chad Morris should utilize this. If he really doesn't see guys, especially Ben Hicks and Starkle, Ben, he's really only has 1. So really, I should say Starkle. If Starkle really doesn't fit the mold of what he's looking for in this year, I think he should give KJ a couple of those reps to maybe start in the game if he proves to be what they think he can be in this type of offense.
I totally agree with you. I think, I'm playing devil's advocate, but in the perfect world, you would like for Starkle and Ben Hicks to come in and be able to handle the yeoman's work of the quarterback job here for the first 2 years of KJ being on campus. Because if you're able to do that, Demetrius, you set yourself up as your offensive line develops, as your running backs develop, as your tight ends and wide receivers all gain maturity. Now you step in, having gone through 2 spring seasons of spring ball. You're on the sideline for 2 seasons, one being a red shirt year. So that you're going into your 3rd year, you're pretty much coming in as a third year sophomore with multiple experience. And I think that's when Arkansas really is going to take that move forward. Coach Mo and staff are still building depth. They still got to, enhance the talent level here at the University of Arkansas. But they're doing that, and they're doing it at a very rapid pace. But we're going to continue on with this show. The bus is going to make one stop, but we're not going to get on it until a few more minutes. I'm not going to tell you where it's going. But next up, Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Time to talk a little Hogs. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a bit. Hey everyone, it's Pat Jenkins here of OTH. That's right, On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, Sports Talk Radio. We come to you each and every day here, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 2 on KDSJ 479. Be sure and tune in if you want to hear about SEC and the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's OTH. Holla.
Exactly. Other than we had the balk, and then that's what moved a runner from, I guess, say it's 2nd and 3rd at the time, maybe. No, 1st and 3rd. And that was the time we probably should have put him on. Hindsight's 20/20. Put him on, and but he just had one of those days. At the time, he only had 1 home run. After that at bat, he had 2, and then obviously after his next at bat, he had 3. So hats off to him. He had a great day.
You guys had a 6-game winning streak going into this. Any feeling about what the Tennessee series will look like?
Yeah, Tennessee series is going to be a tough series. They can really, really play. I mean, they've got a good team. A lot of people are just talking about their, they're pitching, and I mean, every time you look up, they're shutting teams out and giving up one run, and but they're swinging the bats pretty good now, scoring runs. I think they've won, I don't know, 5 out of their 6 SEC games, last 6 maybe, something along that line, maybe 6 out of 6, I don't know. So they're playing at a high level. They're ranked now, and it'll be like, every weekend in the league for the most part, you're playing a really, really good club. We have to play good.
What kind of style of ball is Vitello playing? Similar?
Well, they're.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. It's our Thursday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, as we let you hear more audio from Coach Dave Van Horn following their 10-7 loss last night at Baum Walker to the hands of Northwestern Louisiana State University. But Arkansas just named, another head coach, or another assistant coach, I should say, on the Gus bus, as they've just newly added Corey Williams. And we hadn't talked to the guy that we know we get all our scuttlebutt from when we talk Arkansas basketball. So we made a phone call, and we got hooked back up. Scotty Borland of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Scotty, welcome back, my man.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. A lot's taken place, Scotty, since we last had conversation here on OTH. Coach Musselman just recently, I believe, over the last 24 hours, named his first assistant coach. Corey Williams, former head coach at Stetson University, had a lot of, stints at Florida State, Tulsa, ORU, places like that. Talk about this, Scotty, and what will this do going forward for Coach Muss? Do you feel like he's starting to really get that staff intact?
Yeah, I think he took the first step, naming Corey Williams to his staff. I honestly didn't know a whole lot about it before yesterday, but, I saw your scoop the other day that he was being rumored to be one of the first assistants. I started looking some stuff on him, and he kind of struggled at Stetson. Stetson's a place where, I don't think they've had a winning season in like 15 or 20 years.
Right.
So that's kind of a tough spot to be in. It's a tough job to take. I think he did have some success, at Florida State with Leonard Hamilton. Florida State, I think he was part of some NCAA tournament teams. I think it's Sweet 16 team. So he's been there too, and Musselman in that release, he said that he thinks he's taking the right step in hiring Corey Williams, and that's kind of going to help Arkansas get to championship level where they obviously want to be and start having some of the postseason success that the program's kind of hungry for right now.
When you look at Coach Musselman, he's starting to pull guys that have NBA, either playing experience or coaching experience. We felt like he would have one or two guys. What other names are you hearing as possible candidates to be, members of this first Eric Musselman staff?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised we haven't heard anything about Anthony Ruda yet. Ruda I think he was director of basketball operations at Nevada the first 2 years Musselman was there, and then he got promoted to assistant coach for their final 2 seasons out there. Ruda is actually, he's been in Fayetteville for a while, I guess since the team started workouts and stuff last Monday. We don't know what his official job title is yet, but I would kind of expect him to be named as an assistant or director of basketball operations or something like that pretty soon. I think Steve Shields is another name that's seen thrown out there. But yeah, I kind of expect to hear something on Anthony Ruda pretty soon. Like I haven't heard that something's coming soon, but I kind of expect it to. He's been in Fayetteville for going on 2 weeks now, so it's probably time that we'll hear something.
Scotty, when you look at the new coaches coming in, Oates at Alabama, Williams over at A&M, you have Jerry Stackhouse taking the reins over at Vanderbilt. Musselman comes in here at Arkansas. A lot of moving parts. There's been some added additions in the previous 2 years with Crean, Davis, Will Wade. Talk about the coaching in this conference. There's a lot of coaches with a lot of NBA experience on their staffs and having been either played or coached themselves. Talk about just the way the shape up of this conference is going to go, because I liken it to big boy coaching in the SEC right now. And is that kind of how you're seeing it?
Oh, for sure. And I think it just shows kind of the commitment that the SEC is making with basketball, and I think they're kind of proving and have proved. I think the last couple of years that it's not just a football conference, and it's not just a conference that's going to put baseball teams in Omaha. So I think 4 teams made the Sweet 16 from the SEC last year. That wasn't too surprising. I mean, the top and bottom of the conference is pretty dang good, with the exception of Vanderbilt last year and Georgia last year, I guess. And Texas A&M obviously need a new coach, but yeah, I think there was a fact that came out. I think like 10 of the 14 SEC coaches in the league right now into the Sweet 16.
Right.
And that's a beat. I'm sure. I don't know what the facts are across the board as far as Power 5 schools go, but that's got to be pretty tough to beat. I'm interested in what Jerry Stackhouse is going to do at Vanderbilt.
Right.
I thought it was kind of an intriguing hire. I don't know obviously a whole lot about him as a coach. I think he was in the D League, right?
Uh-huh.
So I mean, I think he's got some experience coaching. We'll just kind of have to see how the recruiting goes. But yeah, the conference is stacked top to bottom with coaches right now. It's kind of fun.
Scotty, you put out a thing on the Musselman offensive scheme. Talk about that, and what was it that you came away, understanding about the offensive, side of the ball when you're watching that Eric Musselman team?
Yeah, I went back a couple of weeks ago and just watched probably 4 or 5 Nevada games and kind of diagrams and plays that I found kind of interesting. And the first thing I think is to be able to run the offense that he did at Nevada. I think you got to have the personnel. And he had about the Martin twins, Caleb and Cody.
Yes.
He had the Musselman ball and Caleb Martin's hands a lot. He's kind of like the prototypical NBA guard now. He's like 6'7" with some handle and pretty versatile. And I think him going and getting Giantal Stella, I think he kind of fits exactly what he wants to do. He's kind of like the traditional. He's like the definition of a stretch 4. I think his jump shooting ability and ability to take guys off the balance is going to be nice.
Right.
Musselman wants to play positionless, but I think what you're going to see is a little bit more. I don't want to say ISO ball, but you're going to see, I think, some more NBA type offense, where it's maybe pick and roll, or you have one guy isolated on one side of the floor and just kind of letting him take his matchup one-on-one, just kind of taking advantage of some mismatches and things like that. So I'm kind of intrigued by that. We'll see if Arkansas got the personnel to do it. But I think adding Giantal Stella, I think that went a long way in being able to do that.
Flipping on the other side, we talk about personnel. Coach Morris and staff are really starting to figure out more about their personnel, coming out of year 2 of spring football. When you watched spring season, year 2 under Coach Morris, Scotty, what are some things that you're going to take out of year 2 of spring ball and kind of, emphasize and pay more attention to once we get to fall camp?
That's a good question. I think I was thinking about it the other day, and I think that Associated Press, one of the AP writers, put out a story about 14 guys in the SEC who could kind of have a breakout year in 2019, and they gave one player for each team, and they listed Trey Knox as Arkansas's breakout guy. Now I think he's already, we saw when first team offense ran on the field for the spring game, Trey Knox was out there. So I mean, he's obviously already part of the first team, and I think he was pretty consistent throughout spring, and I think that just kind of expedites him getting on the field. I think he's gonna make an immediate impact and be a playmaker in year 1. I think the big concern right now is just like making sure that you get your guys that are injured back. Like you want Rakeem Boyd and O'Grady. You get Scooter back, Hayden Henry back. I mean, and then on the offensive line, like you got to piece together the offensive line somehow. I think you just got to guys that are injured. I think you just got to get healthy. I think that might be fine.
We got about 2 minutes left, Scotty, and my last question to you. When you look at this SEC and football coming up in 2019, it's quite obvious 4 teams are going to stand out. That being Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M. Clearly, their rosters are stacked for immediate success. when you go past those four, how do you see the SEC shaking up? From numbers 5 through 14.
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I think it's just unless there's a surprise, like around I don't know. I'm trying to think of some other teams like Missouri. Missouri's losing Drew Lock and their best receiver to the draft. Maybe a team like South Carolina. I don't know what they've got coming back, but South Carolina's always kind of interested me. Florida. Dan Mullen in Florida. They might surprise some folks and get back in the top tier like they were in the past. I don't know a whole lot about Tennessee. I think they're still kind of trying to rebuild, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think the top third of the SEC is pretty set in stone. You got like Alabama and LSU. I think are holding it down there in Georgia too. Texas A&M. I'm kind of leery of them making the jump until they actually do it.
Right.
The Jimbo Fisher, but I don't see like the hierarchy in the league changing, but there could definitely be some surprises.
Well, my man, as always, love the scoop. We'll get back next week. As you know, you said you hadn't been in town since the Musselman press conference, and I know you like that, but I've been off a little bit too. Not too much, probably not as much as I'd like to be, but Scotty, you give us great information. Continue to write those great articles, and as always, thanks for taking time out here on OTH, my man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
I'm Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, and real quick, I want to get Demetrius' thoughts. He says offensive line are some things he's going to be looking forward. I know you mentioned the quarterback situation, but in your opinion, what's the position of strength for Arkansas in the 2019 year? Right now, if they were to play right now, what would be the position that you would hang your hat on?
If I really had to make an educated guess, I would definitely have to say defensive line. I think we have for sure SEC bodies and SEC proven guys, and then we have of course Sosa Agim that we know can have a dominant year to where he's one of the top defensive linemen in the SEC. But if I had to go on again a question mark, I would have to agree with Scotty. I think the offensive line is the question mark of the team.
Great point.
And what's interesting is a lot of the teams that we've been going around on this little caravan that we've been talking about, the SEC is specifically talking about the offensive line position. Everybody has kind of that question mark, and that just shows you how the draft stock of offensive linemen have really risen over the past years. I can remember when you didn't see linemen going top 5 picks overall. They may be still drafted in the first round, but they were never top 5 picks. That was usually a skill position. So I think guys are really having to understand and rebrand the offensive line position. It's not as I wouldn't say physical game, but it's a faster game. You have defensive linemen running 4.5s, 4.4s, so you have to find a different type of body for the offensive linemen, but still have that type of bulk. And I think if we can make that shift and get those type of linemen like the Chabuzis, but also equip him with the scheme and schematics that we need him to execute the type of offense that we have, I think that's really what's going to be able to jump a couple of these teams, because like we said yesterday, a lot of these coaches are young in the SEC. Yes. So it's actually a free-for-all right now in the SEC. You have, of course,
a lot of coaches with chips on their shoulders in this conference.
For sure, and a lot to prove. I think this is a pressure year for a lot of coaches.
Right.
Jimbo Fisher, although this is only his
Gus is on the hot seat.
Second year, Gus is on the hot seat. I think even Chad Morris, to a certain extent, is going to have a little fire under his seat.
Absolutely.
With the type of season we ended with last year.
Absolutely.
Then of course, Missouri with the type of season that they have in question mark with them possibly not making a bowl game. So again, I think this can really be an interesting year, and you're going to see a lot of the guys that were kind of at the bottom of that pit make a four run for the SEC.
Well, we've been talking about this one program, so we're going to hop on the bus, and we're heading to CSTAT. You know what CSTAT is, don't you? It's College Station, Texas. We're going to catch up with Jeff Traylor of 247 Sports. Time to talk gig 'em. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479.
took about a year and a half to find that rhythm. And Clemson, it came more right out of the gate as Whaley scores right out of the gate here on that play. The more they can find the years of college football. Contrary to popular belief, Kelly Shopper did not participate.
I knew you were going there.
In the very first game back in 8, which is critical. I would say this too, Kelly, and you know as much about this as anybody. It's so critical for these quarterbacks to get on the practice field. As Jones lofts a pass, it's caught by Jackson. That'll move the sticks, but to establish the rhythm and consistency with their wide receivers and to make sure they're doing their homework during the middle of the offseason.
Cortland Jackson goes up in one hand. This one, as you see Jones climbing in the pocket once again. But yeah, you talked about it. That's what the summer is going to be about, and it's going to be a critical phase of the development of this offense. You have so many new
surgery. He should be back in a couple of weeks, so he's going to be good. And Ty Cleary returns at center. They feel very good about what he brings to the table. Here's a pass towards the end zone for the touchdown. Grayson Gunner from 23 yards out, and the offense back on the board one more time.
Physical. I thought in both lines, offensive and defensive line, we got much better. I think our skill guys, we were getting much better, and we had some injuries, and then just need the numbers back. But the guys that played did a good job. Development, kicking game, we got some things done. But good, solid spring. Now we just got to evaluate what we are and who we are, and get those other guys back in June. The 1st of June into this May, and get the freshmen incorporated in what we do and how we do it, and get ready for a challenging season. But excited about it. Thought things went well this spring. Got a heck of a season, so we got to get ready to go.
To the right, Ben, and then to the left, Sam. Jimbo, did you see enough out of Calzada today to maybe make him the number 2 going out of the spring?
No, I'll wait and look at the film, and then we'll see where we're at with what's going on there. But he made some nice plays today. You see some of his talent. As James, had a nice drive. We put him in a tough situation at the end. We had a misassignment on a guy, put a backer in a place that shouldn't have been there. But from that standpoint, I thought he played well. And Blumrick, when Blumrick can run and do his things, it takes his strength away when you're tagging him and not letting him run. So we'll look at it and see.
Welcome in. It's our Thursday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. And before we bring in our next guest, because we're on our caravan and we made a stop in C-Stat, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors real quick, as it would not be possible without you guys. Lindsay & Associates with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, located at 735 South Shiloh Drive in Fayetteville. Locomotion, it's located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall, and our newest sponsor, Corey Beck's Custom Painting. And I told you, when we were on our caravan, the bus stopped in College Station, Texas, where we caught up with a good buddy of ours, Jeff Tarpley of 247 Sports. Jeff, welcome to the Hill, my man.
How you doing today?
I'm doing real good. SEC football, spring football just concluded. We're on our On the Hill caravan, moving around from city to city, and we thought we'd stop where you are and talk a little Aggies. How's things going in year 2 under Coach Fisher?
Well, I think everybody's really looking forward to the season. One of the most interesting things is when you watch the NFL draft over the next 3 nights, you're going to see a number of players who will be picked in the draft, spend a year under Jimbo Fisher Day, and really, really transform their games in that year. And the interesting part about that is you saw some of that this past spring. The same things where people got better just over the course of 15 practices. And as a result, even though A&M faces a really, really tough schedule going forward for 2019, Clemson, LSU, Georgia all on the road, Alabama, Auburn at home. Even if A&M doesn't have a breakthrough season necessarily this year, they're going to be set up to be a really top-notch contender, not just for the SEC title, but even nationally in 2020.
When you look at this team, Jeff, you guys have quite a lot of talent, as I've had the chance in the Southwest Classic of watching this team, continuously get faster and faster. At the wide receiver spot, you guys got some studs. Talk about that position and how special could this be going forward. You have guys like Jalen, Preston, and all those guys, but talk about that group in general and just how excited, if you're Coach Fisher, you are for the future going forward.
Well, they didn't really get a chance to show much of what they could do in the spring. A lot of them had various injuries. In fact, 4 of the top 6 set out the spring game. And it's funny you bring up Jalen Preston, but the thing is, right now, I'm not even sure he's in the 2 deep. A&M has a number of veteran. Yeah, A&M has a number of veteran guys who have really transformed their games in the last couple of years. The biggest problem, I think, from that standpoint, is their health. You have Courtney Davis, who had a really, really nice season last year with 45 receptions. What Jay Sternberger did at the tight end position kind of overshadowed him, but Davis had the game-tying touchdown in regulation against LSU. Great leaper, great body control, great hands. You have Kendrick Rogers, who was the hero of the Clemson game, made a number of big catches in that LSU game. He's tall. He can high point the ball. Again, he's a guy, though, that was hurt a lot last season. He's hurt again in the spring. Gotta stay healthy. Jamon Osborne is a big physical receiver. He started for 2 years. He's kind of a beast mode kind of guy. In terms of what he brings to the table as a blocker. He's physical as a pass catcher, not a top-end guy when it comes to speed. You've got a veteran like Cameron Buckley, who is a very, very productive receiver, especially downfield, even though he's not the fastest guy in the world.
Right.
So you've got a foursome right there that's really, really nice, and they're going to get the majority of snaps this season. They've got 2 years of college ball, under their belts. They've got a year in this offense. And West Coast, with the way A&M runs the West Coast, you have to get separation. You have to be precise in running your routes. There's timing routes. So that's a lot for the younger guys to understand. It takes them a while to get into it, as opposed to what you've seen out of these older guys, which is why they have the upper hand at the position.
My big question for A&M is, where do you replace the yardage and production that you have from Travion Williams? He's moved on to the NFL. Where's Jimbo and staff looking to get those carries? Is it going to be by committee, or who's been the guys that have really much flashed, as coaches like to call it?
Well, Jashawn Corbin flashed last year, as you put it, in a backup role. He had a 100-yard kickoff to open the game against Arkansas for a touchdown. He's got good burst. He's put on some weight in the off season. It's kind of interesting. Not only did we not get a chance to see what the wideouts could do during the spring due to injuries, but the running back position was kind of hampered as well. Vernon Jackson was very little used last year. He's a 6'3", 230-pound guy who is one of those size speed guys. He laid people out in one of the scrimmages. Unfortunately, he had a neck injury. They found they found an issue with that neck, and he posted on Facebook before the game that now his career may be in jeopardy. Fisher said after the spring game they're going to take a close look at him, have some really top-notch people examine him, see what's going to go forward from there. But Corbin's probably going to be 1A, but they've got other people behind him. Cordarian Richardson, again, he missed the spring game, had a family emergency, had to go home to Tennessee, but he is a 5'11", 6-foot guy who weighs 240 pounds, thickest legs on the football team. He's someone that can make you miss, but yet if you get a hand on him, he's going to shrug you off. He probably isn't as physical as Jackson, but he may be a better running back in the long term. And then you've got the two guys from the spring game who had over 250 yards in total offense, and Jacob Cabody and Deneric Prince. Prince is probably the fifth best back that A&M has, and he had a really nice spring game. And then you had Cabody, who hasn't been able to break into the lineup, had over 100 yards rushing in the spring game. He's 6'2", 6'3", about 220 pounds. He's learned how to read his blocks. He's very, very tough to bring down. He fights for every yard like Williams did last season. So it'll definitely be a running back by committee. But if one of those guys misses any time during the season, they're going to get bypassed, because A&M, unlike last year when they just wrote Williams and to a school record on his part in terms of rushing yardage. It's definitely going to be more by committee, but I think you could pencil in Corbin as 1A, and then one of those other guys is 1B, 1C.
Jeff, when you look at this team defensively, you guys got quite the talent. You know, Coach Chavis, John Chavis, new defensive coordinator here at Arkansas, former defensive coordinator there. You know, you guys under John and Ron Cooper and that staff were able to pull in some of the nation's elite. Anthony Hines comes to mind, came out of high school, the nation's #1 ranked high school linebacker. What's the status of, you know, him going into the year? And then my second part of that question, what is the expectation? How good could this defense be?
Hines was he started a few games at A&M as a freshman. As a sophomore, he was projected to be a full-time starter on the outside at what's termed the rover position. He injured his leg in fall camp, and again early in the season had surgery. Missed the rest of the year. He didn't sit out all of spring practice. He was able to go through non-contact drills. He's a guy that has really good vision, and he can run, so that translates into really great range for him. He's kind of tall, about 6'3", and he's not a big guy physically. He doesn't look necessarily like an SEC linebacker. He just plays more like one. He racks up tackles, and he doesn't make plays 5 yards past the line of scrimmage and code up the numbers, and he looks really good. But the reality is different. In his case, he makes tackles for losses and stops at the line of scrimmage. In terms of the rest of the defense, A&M has a chance probably to be as good as they were last year overall. Actually, I would say they should be better. They're not going to be as good as they were last year against the run. Probably they lost 6 of the 7 top guys, 6 of their front 7,
right?
Who are either graduating, declared early for the draft, but they still have a lot of size. Especially at defensive tackle. They're a bigger defense than they were last year. The linebacker situation, they don't have a lot of depth there. Buddy Johnson and Hines have to really come through. They're going to probably have to play a lot of snaps for this team. The secondary had a lot of issues last year. They got some help on the way in junior college corner Elijah Blades.
Right.
They had a really good spring out of Leon O'Neal. What they still... One of the interesting things is that they weren't a great pass rushing team last year. They generated sacks, but they didn't generate consistent pressure. I think that will be a big determinant in what kind of defense they are this year. Because Mike Elko really understands the essence of the modern offense, especially in terms of how to stop RPO. So I think A&M will again be a very, very good rushing defense. I think they've got to make some strides in terms of their pass rush. And getting the right people on the field to be able to play the ball in the air and take proper angles. And if they can do that, then I think they actually may be a much better defense than what they were last year.
Last question before I let you go. I got about a minute and a half left. I want everybody to know I'm talking with Jeff Tarpley of 247 Sports. Covers the A&M Aggies for us here on the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. But if you have an offensive player and one defensive player that you would say would be the breakout players on that side of the ball for the Aggies, who would the offensive and who would the defensive player be in your opinion, Jeff?
I'm going to pick Ron McCollum on offense. He's a center. He was a spring MVP. He got elevated to the starting lineup last year after one of the starting guards went down for the season.
Right.
And he played very, very well at guard, moved into the pivot spot during the spring MVP. A&M's offense really didn't miss a beat in terms of their ability to carry out their assignments. In terms of what Eric McCoy brought to the table, who is now slated by some people to be a first-round draft pick, they targeted the right people. And when he wasn't out, they really, really missed him. I think a breakout player on defense, I'm going to go with Justin Matabuke. And really, Justin had 10.5 tackles for loss last year.
Right.
But he's just not a guy that's well known around the country. He's very explosive off the football. He's over 300 pounds now. I think this is a guy that by the end of the season is going to be a 15-plus tackle for loss guy, and you're going to be talking about him being a first 2 days NFL draft kind of guy when it's all said and done.
Well, Jeff, as always, we're going to continue to talk more. Welcome to the show, and as always, my man, love the insight, and thanks for taking time out here on the Hill, Jeff.
No problem. Thanks, man. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. That was Jeff Tarpley of 247 Sports. Demetrius, I said Jeff Traylor. Jeff Traylor's recruiting for the University of Arkansas, somewhere in Houston. So I apologize to our listeners. That's with Jeff Tarpley of 247 Sports, covers the A&M Aggies. They like to say gig 'em. Now, when you hear Jeff speak, what do you take? Because I'm of the belief, Demetrius, before we get out of here, I think A&M is set up to have a very, very, very good year. Now, he mentioned the schedule. You got Georgia, Clemson, LSU, Auburn, Alabama. You know, those are 5 tough ones. But the talent that we see each and every year in Jerry's world, they got a chance.
I actually think the schedule helps them because I think anytime you're going against elite programs and you're trying to establish yourself as one of the blue chip programs, not only in the SEC but in the nation, I think it takes Jimbo with the type of credentials and the type of resume he has to dethrone the champions. I think those are momentum games. I think those are games that really solidify you being number one. And I think that's why he got paid the big bucks to go out there and play those type of games against the Clemsons, against the Alabamas, against the Georgias. And again, I think it only benefits the team because, again, when you're talking championships, you want to go beat championship programs, and you want to mold your team after those type of programs. And I think anytime you're on the field, it elevates you, especially early in the season when guys are still kind of doing those cupcake games. You've been in those trench wars. You've been in those. Okay, this is a must-win game. Guys, I'm going to need everything you got for this 40 or so minutes. And I think. Again, I think looking at the end of the season, it can really help Jimbo, not only credibility-wise, but also recruiting. I mean, you're talking about he's playing all the teams that all the top recruits want to go to outside of maybe Ohio State and then, Oklahoma and a few more. But when you're talking about Power 5 programs that you would love to attend to, that you've guaranteed an option at the NFL, I think Jimbo's positioning himself to be a trademark school in the SEC and in the NCAA football.
You know, so far what I've figured out and what I've taken from the caravan that we've been on this week is, you know, outside of Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M, 5 through 14, from all the media guys that we've talked to, they feel like this could be a very open, very highly competitive conference. When you get past those 4, someone's going to step up. I said this year that I thought Vanderbilt was going to be my surprise team. I still believe that. But I think Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, and the job that Kevin Sumlin was able to do with stockpiling talent. Now, maybe he didn't get that talent to play up to its potential, and Jimbo's come in and reinvigorated that culture because that is a talented program that they have down there in CSTAT. And today, that's going to wrap it up for us. Want to give a thank you to Scotty Borderland of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette for coming on and talking Razorbacks, as we like to talk about here on OTH. Also, too, on our caravan, we stopped in CSTAT. I want to give a big thank you to Jeff Tarpley of 247 Sports. He gave us the Gig 'em update. From my co-host, Demetrius Johnson, and for my sponsors, I want to give a thank you to them as well. Lindsay & Associates with an office location in Fayetteville, office location also too in Rogers. The Baymont Hotel, located at 735 South Shiloh Drive in Fayetteville. And Locomotion, it's located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall. And lastly, our newest sponsor, Corey Beck's Custom Painting. That's going to wrap it up for myself, for Demetrius. To you guys, thanks for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one. Holler. Hey everyone, it's Pat Jenkins here of OTH. That's right, On the Hill with Pat Jenkins, Sports Talk Radio. We come to you each and every day here, Monday through Friday, from 1 to 2 on KDSJ 479. Be sure and tune in if you want to hear about SEC and the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's OTH. Holla.